All right, well, we're about a minute past the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you have questions throughout the session, you can feel free to chat those in using the Q&A feature. I have Mariella from our team here to help me monitor those, so please feel free to chat them in and we will answer them as we can. And so I'm going to go through kind of where we are at in the transition and what we have left. We're about 2/3 of the way through the transition, so we're winding down, and so we wanted to make sure we gave opportunity to kind of review where we're at and answer any specific questions that candidates have about the transition and what's happening. So as hopefully most of you are aware, we are transitioning the LARE from the current 1, 2, 3, 4 sections to 4 new sections. This is the content equivalency. And so this will kind of tell you where you are at in the process and how the transition will impact your path to licensure. And so on the left here in the blue, we have the transition or equivalency for the new construction documentation and administration section. In order to get credit for that new blue section, you'll need to pass section 1 of the current blueprint and section 4 of the current blueprint. What's important about this is if you've passed section 1, it'll be important for you to try and finish section 4 before the transition. For the green section, if you've passed section 2 of the current blueprint, you will get credit for the new inventory analysis and project management section. For the yellow section, if you've passed section 3 design, you'll get credit for the new planning and design section. And then for the gray down at the bottom, if you've passed section 4, grading, drainage, and construction documentation of the current blueprint, you will get the credit for the new grading, drainage, and stormwater management. I saw a chat come in, so before I get too far, I just want to check. Oh, the question is, will sections 3 and 2 have the same reading reference list? So we actually have a committee meeting coming up in about 2 weeks. And so we review the reference list annually. And so they'll be reviewing it at that time and making any adjustments. And so we'll announce those adjustments for the new blueprint. And so we will have that information in a couple of weeks. So here we are in the transition timeline. Currently, we're in May. Registration is open for the August administration. Please note that the August administration is the last opportunity to take sections 1, 2, or 3. So if you need to take or would like to take those before the transition, you need to take those in August. Following the August admin, registration will open in September for 2 administrations. The first administration it'll open for is our October 2023. This is an extra admin that we've added for section 4 only to help candidates transition, especially candidates who have passed that section 1 and need to finish 4. You will have an opportunity in October to take section 4. We will also open registration for the new blueprint and for December and September. And so that new blueprint will be administered in December of 2023. And so you will be able to see online kind of where you are in the transition following the August admin and decide if you needed to take the October section 4 or if you're ready to move on to the new blueprint. So for August 2023, just some key takeaways. This is your final chance to take sections 1, 2, and 3. You cannot take section 1 unless you've passed section 4 or are taking section 4. If you have some type of extenuating circumstance, you need to reach out to us, but you're not supposed to take section 1 unless you have passed section 4 or are taking section 4 in August. Section 2 and section 3 are direct equivalencies, so feel free to take those now. Passing them will get you credit for the new blueprint, so those are pretty direct and straightforward transition sections. And the August 23 scores will be available in early September so that you can determine if you need to test in October or if you are ready to move on to December and what sections you need to finish. For the October administration, it's section 4 only. You'll need to have passed section 1. Again, if you have an extenuating circumstance and you want to take section 4, even though you haven't passed section 1, you need to reach out to us and we can talk through that. Registration will open in early September and you will have the scores available in late November. So if you are taking the October section 4, you won't know your scores in time for December, but you will be for the April, unless you're taking a different section. You can obviously take a different section, but if you're trying to see about transition, you won't have those scores in time for December, so you'll need to take in April. For the December admin, this is the first administration of our new blueprint. So make sure that you check your transition and what you need to take before you move forward. We will share your transition details online, so you'll be able to see your progress and be able to see where you're at and what you have left. Registration will open in early September. We will be releasing practice tests for the new blueprint as well, and those will be available in early September also. Scores for this administration will be slightly delayed. They'll be available in late February. Because it's a new blueprint, we have to set a new cut, and so it's a different process. And so we will be setting that cut score and determining the minimal threshold for passing. And so scores will come out in late February. And the results that you get will include, if you fail, will include feedback by subdomain. And when we go through the blueprint, I'll kind of walk through what that means. So in the new blueprint, you can see what we call, like if you look at inventory analysis and project management in blue, what we're calling the subdomains are those 4 boxes below. So project management, inventory and data collection, stakeholder engagement process, physical analysis, and contextual analysis. In those sections, those subdomains, you'll get feedback about how you performed, and that will help guide you as to where to focus for future attempts. And so for planning and design, you'll get feedback by those 4 subdomains. For construction, documentation, and administration, you'll get feedback by the 3 subdomains. And then on the gray on the right for grading, drainage, and stormwater management, again, feedback by the 3 domains.
Rebecca, we have the same question asked about, will there be a book list for section 1 and 4?
Absolutely, yeah. So again, the committee is going to review those books in June, and because some of the content shifted, so some of the books may shift as well, and they are also looking at some potential new resources, and so we will review those and have those out as soon as we can following that June meeting. So our key takeaways are going to be that the exam content doesn't change till December, so kind of figure out where you are and figure out what you need to do next. If you pass section 1, you definitely need to pass section 4. If you've passed section 4, you should really try to pass section 1. August 2023 registration is open, and then we're here to help you guys. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out and contact us. So we're going to go through some questions, and then I'll throw up our contact information after that, and so we can kind of answer any questions that you have and address any concerns.
One of the questions, Rebecca, is there any discussion of creating a CLARB produced exam study guide book for the LARE?
I guess so. The only thing, I guess I don't quite understand the question, but so we have the orientation guide that will give you kind of the content and the breakdown of the subdomains and kind of how the test works. We will be releasing practice tests in September for the 4 new sections. So you can take those and review those, and then we will be updating that reference list as appropriate. As far as like a specific tutorial or study guide, we wouldn't be doing anything like that.
Another question is, will they get feedback on the domains if they pass?
You will not. So scores will still be released as pass fail. So if you pass, it'll be a pass. And then if you fail, you'll get feedback by the subdomain.
Okay. Another one is, will they be able to write the section 3 exam in December with the reading reference list currently available, or will the exam change the to accommodate the new blueprint?
So in December 2023, it's all the new blueprints. So there's no section 3 left anymore. So it'll all be new blueprint in December of 2023.
There's a couple questions on section 1 and 4 if they pass. So if they pass section 1 and not 4 and don't pass section 4 before the new plan, will they be able to have a rewrite section 1?
So basically what will happen is section 1, in combination with section 4 are going to be the new construction. Let me go back to that. Sorry about that. So the new construction documentation and administration will be parts of section 1 and parts of section 4. And so if you've passed section 1 but not passed section 4, you have to take the new construction documentation and administration section. So you will see content that you saw in section 1 on this new section. Is that kind of the question, I think?
I believe so. Could you clarify there's some people missed the answer for sections 3 and 2 will be the same ready list. Oh yeah, sorry. Rebecca, if you can just remind them that will be provided later after the meeting with the committee meeting.
Yep. So we should have the new reference list towards the end of June. We should have what those changes are going to be for the new blueprint.
There's a lot here, sorry.
No problem. We wanted to have mostly a Q&A, so this is great.
Yes. There's one specific question. In the past in California, we could only take 1 and 2 out of school. Which section are we eligible to take now? Not sure.
So that would really be a question for California. Their rules still apply that if you have the accredited degree, once you get approved by the board, or you meet their education standard, I'll say it that way. Once you get approved by the board, you can take 1 and 2, and then you have to have, I believe it's 2 years of experience before you can take 3 and 4. I believe that their qualifications for testing on the exam are transitioning. And those will be updated in time for December. But in terms of your eligibility as to what sections you're approved to take, you'll want to check with the LATC. But I believe they're going to be the same for all 4 sections moving forward.
Another question. Can you give them the dates when they can register for section 4 in October, or when will it be open for only section 4 only in October?
Yeah, it's going to open in early September. And if you're not, sorry, really quick, if you're not following us, we will send out emails and stuff like that, but also follow us on social media, because we'll update through social media as well. And sometimes that can be faster.
And another one is the fees. What about the fees, or the question?
Yeah, so the fees are still going to be comparable. We're still working out kind of the final fee sets. And so we should have that when registration opens.
Okay. Sorry. There's another question. So to study for construction documentation and administration, is the best bet to study all resources for the old section 1 and 4?
I mean, it definitely wouldn't hurt you, I would say, but we will have the new reference list at the end of June. So that may narrow your focus, and so that may be beneficial. Don't go out and buy all those books today, because if you give us a couple of weeks, by the end of June, we'll be able to narrow that focus down for you.
It says, to clarify, there's still 4 exams. I guess confusion if there's 4 exams. They're not sure if you mean there's no more than 3 sections. I think there's a confusion on the changes of pretty much what you're displaying here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to the blueprint. Sorry, we'll jump around a little bit. Sorry on the slides. This is the new blueprint. So there will still be 4 sections. And so these are the 4 moving forward starting in December of 2023. So it'll be 4 sections.
Yep. Let's see. There's another, as a full member with certification, no stamp, if we do not take or pass section 4 by December, do we keep the full member status? Not sure. So that,
I'm guessing perhaps maybe you're in Ontario. And so that would be a question for Ontario. If you have some type of credential or something from your local jurisdiction, either your province or your state, you would need to ask them about kind of how you retain that. If that's not correct, if you chat in kind of a little bit more information, that will help us answer that question.
okay. Another one is just to confirm if one passes section 2 and 3 in August, those are valid going into the new plan, even if section 1 and 4 remain outstanding and needing to pass.
That is correct. So if you pass section 2, you get this blue section, inventory and analysis and project management. If you pass section 3, you get planning and design, regardless of what you've done on the other sections. Regardless, I guess is the right word.
Will the question styles still be the same with multiple answers, hotspot, drag in place?
Yes, so those will be the 4 item types, and you'll actually see all of those item types on all 4 exams. So that's kind of what's new, is all 4 exams will utilize multiple choice, multiple response, hotspot, and drag in place items.
Someone is asking who will have practice tests for the new blueprint tests.
Yes, so the practice test will come out in September, and we'll have 1 for each section.
Can you again discuss when, if they failed section 4 in August, their last chance to take the old section 4 is in October?
That is correct. So the last the last opportunity to take section 4 is in October. Let me hold on, give me 1 second. I probably should have included those dates. My apologies. That was silly. Let's see. So it'll be administered October 16th through the 24th. And those dates are also available on our website. So you can see those under the exam dates and deadlines. And registration will open in early September for that.
There's other questions, if you can clarify once again the fee cost.
Yep, so we're still working on the fees. They'll be comparable in price, so they'll almost all be the same price, most likely, or pretty close. And so we should have those fees soon, but definitely by the time registration opens in September. But as soon as we have those finalized, we'll update the website.
I'm still seeing a lot of confusion with section 1 and 4,
Sure.
Rebecca. So if you can clarify when they can take section 1 if they don't pass, section 1 is, so for example, if someone is taking section 1 and 4, can they take section 1 in October if they don't pass it? Just more kind of reiterating the section 1 and 4. So there's a lot of questions around it if they don't pass.
Okay, so let's split up section 1 into a few categories. If you've passed section 1, so I'm talking to people who finished section 1 and you haven't finished section 4, you need to try to finish 4. You have August and October to do that. If you've passed section 4, but you haven't passed section 1, August is your last chance to try to finish section 1. So you'll need to try to get on that this August. At this point, CLARB's recommendation is if you have not passed section 1 and you have not passed section 4, do not take section 1 because they go together. So you can continue with 4 because you'll get credit for a new section. So if I go back, I don't know, I doubt you guys can see my mouse, but let's annotate. All right, draw. So section 4 here, okay? If you pass it by itself, it gets you credit for this, all right? No matter what happens with section 1. So if you want to pursue 4, that's fine. But at this point, if you haven't passed section 1, CLARB highly discourages you from taking section 1 because you have a risk of not being able to complete 4 before the transition, and then you're not going to be able to transfer any of that section 1 credit. So if you haven't passed section 1, I would encourage you to focus on other sections. If you have an extenuating circumstance, I would encourage you to call me. So just reach out to us and we can kind of talk through your specific circumstance and kind of figure out the best path for you. But our general advice is if you have not passed section 1 yet, do not take it in August. Just wait and take the new construction documentation and administration section.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A few questions around the practice test. One is, will the new practice test be a full exam or just a few questions? And will the practice test be free or cost, or will they need to be purchased?
Absolutely. So the new practice test, our goal is 50 questions per section. So we're trying to get up 50 questions per section. There will be a fee. It will be fairly minimal, but there will be a fee, and you will be able to test and experience it just like the exam. So it won't be a PDF printout. You'll be able to do it online on your computer, just like you will the real test. And so that will be helpful. And then you'll be able to see kind of, you can take it like a real test. And then you can also take it in a way that will allow you to see the rationale for answers. As far as kind of if you got something correct or incorrect, and it'll give you kind of a score report that will show you how you performed on those 50 items, those 50 questions.
Thank you. Sorry, another practice question. Is the old practice test still relevant to the new section?
So you would need to correlate them. So the current section 1 would be good for construction documentation and administration. But if you look at the blueprint, there are aspects of 1 that have kind of moved around a little bit. So like that project management is now in inventory and analysis. So the content will still be relevant, but you may see some of it on different sections.
I was asking, can you describe more detail of the pass and fail feedback?
Sure. So what's going to end up, So if you take inventory and analysis and project management, you're going to get kind of some language that tells you how you performed on the project management section. Compared to candidates who were successful. So it'll either say that you scored relatively the same, or that you need to focus in this area, or this is an area of significant weakness. So then you'll know kind of, okay, well, project management is an area in which I should really kind of focus my studying and preparation for the next test. And so you'll get that for each area. And so it'll tell you kind of how you performed in each area and where you need to focus your studying, if that makes sense.
Let's see. So another relevant question, what is the purpose of restructuring the goal of the blueprint changes? What does this new format achieve?
Yeah, so actually what the new format achieves is better alignment with what practice is. So when you do high stakes testing like licensing or even high stakes credentialing, what you do is you're assessing practice as it relates to health, safety, and welfare. And so what you're trying to accomplish is making sure that the assessments that you're giving, the exams that you're giving line up with what practice is. Depending on how often practice evolves is how often they do what's called a job task analysis. So for landscape architecture, the evolution of practice is fairly slow. And so we do it every 5 to 7 years. And so we conducted the job task analysis over the course of 21, 22. And so we announced this transition in August of 22. And what this does is it realigns and makes sure that we're testing on current practice. And so the weighting of it really depends on how prevalent and how heavy a content area was in the results of that survey. And you can actually see the results of that survey on our website as well if you're interested in reading it. And it's available on the if you're on the main page, there's like a maroon box talking about the transition, and you can actually get the results of the job task analysis survey there. But that's basically what validates the blueprint and makes sure that we're testing appropriate practice and the right level of practice. And then it keeps the exam current and defensible for landscape architecture licensing. So that's kind of why we change it.
A few similar questions on, so will the practice test be available to take multiple times after purchasing it, or do they have to pay every time they take it?
There will be at least one retake. We're finalizing kind of the rules with that, but it will include at least one retake. And so we'll hopefully have that in the next month or so.
Sorry, another question related to practice tests. Will the practice tests have similar questions to the real tests?
Yes. Yeah, they'll have similar questions to the real test. And so it'll be a good way for you to kind of review how the questions will be presented to you, how to interact with the questions, and kind of just a general feel of what the exam is going to feel like.
Another question, is it recommended to take the new city admin test before the new grading drainage test?
CLARB really doesn't have a recommendation on order. It really just depends on your background and your experience. So for some people, if your experience or your education is heavily focused on grading and drainage, that might be the section that you want to start with. Or if it's heavily focused on the construction side and the detail side, that might be the area you want to start with. So it really just depends on your own experience and your comfort level with those content areas.
Another question is related to the exam results. With the new blueprint, will they be able to get results back quicker, or they still have to wait the 6 weeks time frame?
Yeah, so CLARB's plan, so we'll have to set kind of, because it's a new exam, we'll have to do kind of what we call a cut score study. And so we'll have to set that cut. And then our plan is to hopefully by the end of 2024, starting with the April of 25 administration, to be able to give you immediate results on pass fail. The feedback rationale will still take some time. And so that will still be about that 4-week mark to get the feedback if you did fail. But our plan is to be able to release immediate pass fail results in April of 25.
Other questions related to the diagnostic feedback. So do you receive diagnostic feedback if you pass? And will you receive specific feedback on questions they got incorrect?
Sure. So you will not get feedback at all if you pass. So if you pass, you're just going to get passed, same as you do now. If you fail, you'll get feedback in terms of how you performed in a subdomain. So like that project management, how you performed overall in that section. You will not get feedback on which questions you got specifically wrong.
Couple questions. Are we planning to change section 1 and 2 in the near future? Will the content for section 2 and 3 change drastically?
So one thing we're trying to kind of transition is calling them 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's not 1, 2, 3, and 4 anymore. It's just these names. This blueprint will be the blueprint for until we do the next job task analysis, which should be in about 5 years. And then depending on what happens with the profession in 5 years, that will determine if the content needs to change at all. And just from a historical perspective, our last large transition like this where the content changed significantly was in 2012. When we did the job task analysis in 2016, it was very minor change. And then this one has been a more significant one. So it really just depends on how quickly practice is evolving.
See. There's some related questions on when will grades be available for August section 4 for review.
Yeah, so we're going to push to get those out right away. And so my goal is to have them at the beginning of September and be able to release an open registration right at that time or very early September. So that is our goal.
There's a lot of questions related to credit. What do you mean by credit? Like, how does it work? It's just really for, I guess, for all of them, for all the sections, what does that entail?
Yeah, so when we say credit, that means that you don't have to take that section of the new blueprint. So when you go online after the transition, right, starting in September, you'll be able to see how your section 3 applies to the new blueprint. And so you would get what we call credit for planning and design. If you pass section 3, you'd get credit for this orange section, planning and design, which means you won't need to take planning and design in order to finish the exam. Because your section 3 will count towards that. That will be your planning and design credit or section. And so we'll be able to tell you which sections you'll need to take of the new blueprint after that transition. If you're not planning on testing in August or October and you kind of want to know what you're going to need to take moving forward, feel free to reach out to us and we can tell you now.
More questions. Have the reading resources been changed, and when we can have the updated reading list for exam? Sorry, I believe you already explained that.
That's okay.
Can you reiterate that information?
Sure, yeah. So the committee's reviewing those in like 2 weeks. So by the end of June, we should have what that new reading list will be. And as soon as we have it, we'll share that online. But just remember that what we share in June will be for the new blueprint. And so we'll make sure that's clear on the document that will be for the new blueprint so that you can review that.
You. I think there's one specific question with UCLA Extension still offer LARE prep. I'm not sure if you have any information on that.
I unfortunately do not, and so I would reach out to UCLA on that. But I imagine most prep providers are going to adjust their courses and still be available for you guys to participate in.
Here's another question will any of the old exam sections A, B, C, D, and E now get credit in the new blueprint?
They would transition the way they did to 1, 2, 3, 4. So their transition wouldn't be any different. So they'll transition just like 1, 2, 3, and 4 does. So if you're in that category, if you pass section A, you have credit for section 1. And so then therefore you would need to have either passed of the old alphabet D and E to get 4 or 4. So again, if you're caught in 2 transitions, those 2 major transitions I was talking about, it may be best to reach out to us just so that we can talk through that. But an easy transition is if you pass section B as in boy, you have credit for section 2, which would still give you credit for inventory analysis and project management of the new blueprint. So it just really depends on what sections, but I'm more happy to talk through that with you individually.
Thank you. There's another question. about the feedback. Why exactly did we not provide feedback for candidates that don't pass that pass the exam?
Because you passed. So the LARE is assessment tool. It's not an educational resource. And so the point of the LARE is to assess your competency. In fairness to candidates who are trying to obtain that level of competency, we are working towards providing this feedback in order to help you better understand areas of weakness and before you become what we call the proficient in the area or minimally competent in the area in order to practice independently. And so we'll provide that feedback to candidates who are still seeking that knowledge. But as far as candidates who pass, you've passed, and so you're good to go.
Yeah. So another one will be, will there be a clear understanding of how much each question is worth? Do you still need the 350 to pass? 650 to pass, sorry.
No problem. So the scale score will still be 650. And so we'll scale the new cut to that. So 650 will still be that threshold. As far as the question scoring, it's still the same. So you get 1 point for each question. So it'll still be the same.
There's some questions to section 2 and 3. Is with it being such a long time frame for tests, the test administration, is it possible to take it in, say 2 or 3 days during the week, or how do you schedule a time to take these sections of the exam? I think this is more personal preference.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, so we have candidates who take all 4 sections in one admin. It really just depends on your comfort level. If you'd like to take 2 and 3 in August, you're welcome to do that. The admin's been extended slightly, so it's about 2.5 weeks or so. And so you should be able to find an appointment. If you have trouble finding an appointment, just reach out to us and we'll work to get you one. But yeah, you should be able to do that. Taking 2 sections in one day is a little bit harder just because they're longer. So that can be a little bit harder. You may have to take it over multiple days. But you can definitely do it within the 2-week window if you wanted to take more than one section.
Can you provide more information? There's a couple questions on the length of the exams and the pricing.
Yeah, so pricing, like I said, we'll have when registration opens in September. The length of the exam, the blueprint's up, and so the goal is to have them each be about 3 hours. And so we're still doing some analysis of timing, but yeah, it's not gonna be less than 3. So it'll be at least 3 hours. And so some of them we're still reviewing to see if they need a little bit more time, but definitely at least 3 hours.
Okay. Sorry, let me see. Will the reference list still be as broad as the current one, or is it narrow things down?
I really wouldn't be able to say. That'll be up to the committee in terms of the resources that they need. And so they'll be reviewing those, and we'll know at the end of June what those are, and so we'll be able to share those.
Thank you. Let's see. Do they need to redo section 2 if passed for any reason? Not really understanding that question.
So I guess if the question is, if you pass section 2, is there any reason you would need to retake it, or is there any reason it wouldn't transition? For CLARB, no. I'm going to caveat that by saying there are certain states that have what they call rolling clocks, which means that there's a time limit on how long you can take to finish the exam. So you would need to check with that jurisdiction. If you want to check with us, I'm happy to answer that for you. Feel free to reach out. But it would be something I'd need to look up. I don't know them all off the top of my head, unfortunately, but there's a handful. So it would just depend on where you're located.
Thank you. Let's see. So there's another one. In order to take the exam, if you already have a degree and the amount of experience required, are the references still required?
So unfortunately, I have to say it depends. I don't believe most jurisdictions, if you have the accredited degree and or the experience, then you can start testing. However, if your jurisdiction is a yellow jurisdiction on our map, so if you're on our website and it's a yellow jurisdiction, that's what we call a pre-approval jurisdiction. So you'll need to make application to that board before you take any section of the exam and get yourself approved. If you want to chat in where you are, I can tell you if that's a pre-approval board, but there's, I think, maybe 10 of them that are yellow. And so if you go on our website under take the exam, that green section, there's the eligibility, and that map will tell you if your jurisdiction is yellow or green. If it's green, you only need the accredited degree in order to start taking the LARE, and then you'll need to meet the other requirements before you get licensed.
Let's see, there's, will the examination windows still be the same as April, August, and December, carrying forward into 2024?
Yes, our plan is those windows. Yeah, it'll be roughly a 2.5 week window in April, August, and December.
Could you, so if somebody passes, let's say section 4 in August, will it be covered in the new grading, drainage, and stormwater management section?
Yes, so if you pass section 4, you get credit for grading, drainage, and stormwater management, no matter what.
Can you clarify again for that's, so I can clarify just for the October admins, only section 4.
Correct.
And not all sections.
Nope, just section 4.
Let's see. There's again questions on length of time of seating for exams. Can you explain, provide that information once again? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So the exam itself, the plan is 3 hours for each section. You'd have 3 hours to take the exam. We are still doing a couple of timing tests just to make sure that that 3 hours is sufficient, but it will be at least 3 hours. And then we're going to kind of review a couple of them. We may make 3.5, but we're looking into that right now, but at least 3 hours.
Let's see. So again, there's that confusion with section 1 and 4. So if they pass section 4 and not 1, do you still have to retake section 4 after the new blueprint?
Okay. So there is no section 4 anymore, but if you pass section 4, no matter what you've done on the rest of the test, you get credit for this gray section, grading, drainage, and stormwater management. Doesn't matter if that's the only section you've passed. If you pass section 4, you get credit for the gray, grading, drainage, and stormwater management.
If one passes section 1 and 4, do you recommend taking section 3 and 2 together in August 2023 before the new admin?
That's entirely up to you. If you feel confident in those 2 areas of content, sure. And it won't hurt. I mean, if you fail, that's not a big deal. You'll just take the new blueprint. And so they're not connected anyway. If you fail one and you pass the other, like if you fail section 2 and you pass 3, 3 still transitions. So there's no risk of losing anything in that scenario. So that's really kind of just your comfort level.
Can you provide again information on the format of the new exam? And I guess they're asking also on the amount of questions per exam.
Yes, let me, sorry, let me just pull up the blueprint really quick. Sorry about that. So all 4 sections will have all 4 item types. So they will have multiple choice, multiple response, drag in place, and hotspot. As far as, there it is. As far as number of questions, so inventory analysis and project management will have 100 total questions. Planning and design, the orange section, will have 95 questions total. Construction, documentation, and administration, our green one, will have 100 questions total. And grading, drainage, and stormwater management, that gray one, will have 80 total questions. And this blueprint is available on our website under that that maroon orange color or maroon red color on the homepage. And so you can see the new blueprint, and it'll give you the subdomains, the appointment length, the exam length, and then the number of questions, and also the item types. And the subdomains are broken down even in further detail. So you can see kind of what all falls into project management and inventory and analysis. So that's a good thing to review in terms of kind of what all makes up project management in the new inventory and analysis section, or what all makes up inventory, data, and collection.
Thank you. There's another question related to, will there be paper and pencil provided for sections 4 and 3?
Nope, we will still be using the whiteboard, the digital whiteboard.
And when will results be available for section 4 in August admins in order to retake in order to retake in October?
Yeah, we'll have them available in early September when registration opens for October.
Let's see. Will there still be questions about traffic engineering and road construction?
I would have to look at the blueprint, but I believe so. Yes.
Will there be any in-person or Zoom classes for August exam to discuss exam materials? I'm assuming.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Would there be any in-person or Zoom classes for the August exam to discuss exam details? I'm assuming kind of similar to
like a prep class. CLARB's not hosting any prep classes. ASLA may be doing something, or other test prep providers. I have seen some chatter on the Google groups about study groups that are meeting via Zoom. So that might be an avenue if you're looking for study partners or prep courses. That might be where you want to check out. If that was the question. If that's not the question, if you don't mind rephrasing it, I'll try to answer it better.
So there's questions on, since we're describing section 4 as being equivalent to drainage, grading, drainage, and stormwater management section, theoretically they can wait till next session, like next the new plan, correct? Like as
Say
in
one more time.
So we describe as section 4 being equivalent to the drainage grading, drainage, stormwater management section. So theoretically they could wait till the new blueprint, since it could it's kind of redundant, or I guess any more information of why take section 4 now, or they can wait for the new blueprint to come to take that grading, drainage, and stormwater water management section.
So the only reason we would highly encourage you to take section 4 now is if you've passed section 1. So if you've passed section 1, you need to take section 4 now. If you don't take section 4 and pass it, you'll have to take both grading, drainage, and stormwater management here in gray, and construction documentation and administration. So you have to take both of those sections. So if you've passed section 1, I would encourage you to take section 4. If you've not passed 1, then you can easily wait. There's no real major pressure to take section 4 now.
Thank you. Just another, if they expect to pass section 2 and 3 by December, their understanding is that this test will count and will then take the new material for section 1 and 4. Is that correct?
So if you take and pass 2 and 3, you'll get credit, or it'll count as part of the new blueprint. You'll have inventory analysis and project management complete, and planning and design complete. And then you would need to take construction documentation and administration, and grading, drainage, and stormwater management. That's correct.
Yeah. There's another one. If they haven't started writing the exams, is it better to wait until the new form in December? Can it still write in August?
If you haven't started at all and you want to get started, I would start with section 2 or section 3. That would be my recommendation, and you're welcome to do that. You're also welcome to wait, but that would be my recommendation. If you want to kind of get going, start with either 2 or 3.
Has there been any discussions about making the exam more available, such as being able to test in one a month?
Oh, once a month. Yeah. So we are looking at that. We are discussing different window breakdowns and things like that. But at this point, there's nothing definitive. So at this point, it's still just the 3 admins in April, August, and December.
Yeah. Is the new blueprint considered to be harder than the current version of LARE?
I would say no. I mean, unless it's got content that new content that you're not familiar with. But no, I mean, there's nothing to indicate that this one is harder. No.
Thank you. I'm not sure this is something we can answer, but if you know, Rebecca, where can they find the Zoom study groups? Not sure that we know.
So I see them talking about it on the LARE Google group. So that's where I would start. I think if you just Google LARE Google group, it'll come up, and you can join. And so I see people trying to find times to meet up and do Zoom studies there.
Okay. And last, will there be any updates to the digital format interface?
Because I don't quite understand the question, but no, it should be the same. It'll be the same way. We're still using PSI, and you'll still test computer, and so all of that should be the same. And I will throw up the last screen with our contact information. If you have any questions or anything specific as far as the transition or how it applies to you, feel free to reach out to us. You're welcome to ask directly for me. If you scan this QR code, it'll take you directly to our exam changes website. And so you can kind of see that new blueprint and see all of that information there.
There are no more questions coming up.
All right, well, thanks everyone so much for coming, and we appreciate that. And this is recorded, so we will get it up online for you. And again, we're here to help you navigate the transition. So please feel free to reach out, and we'll be happy to assist you. Have a wonderful afternoon.